Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Lakewood City Council meeting for this Monday, November 3rd, 2025. Madam Clerk, if you'd please call roll.
Councilmember Bell. Here. Councilmember Boki.
Here.
Member Brandstetter.
Here.
Councilmember Lauricella.
Here.
Councilmember Pearson.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Moss. Here. And Mayor Whalen.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Now, if you'd please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our nation's flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, again, thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank those of you who are joining us from home. We are pleased to be here, and our first section tonight is always one of our favorites, the proclamation and presentation portion of the agenda. The first proclamation is that declaring November 2025 as Native American Heritage Month. For that, I'm pleased to have our friends from the Nisqually Indian Tribe, Hanford McLeod, to join me at the podium to receive the proclamation, and then we'll have a photograph with council followed. Well, before that, Hanford always loves to make some great remarks, and then we'll follow it with a photograph. Thanks. Good to see you, sir. How are you, sir?
Good, how are you doing?
Yeah. Welcome, welcome. Well, we very much appreciate the partnership we have with our friends in the Nisqually tribe. We are working on some collaborative projects together and have done good work as collaborative government bodies. And so it is with great pride that the council presents this proclamation. Whereas Washington State is home to 29 federally recognized Indian tribes, and in Lakewood, the Nisqually and Steilacoom people were the first inhabitants in this land, using what was once prairie as a ready source of food and a gathering place. And whereas Lakewood is committed to supporting and strengthening government-to-government relationships with our tribal neighbors and recognizes the contributions of Indigenous people are woven deeply into our rich tapestry. And whereas the city and the Nisqually Indian tribe are engaged in a collaborative partnership to develop interpretive installations on public lands within the city that feature the unique culture and history of the Nisqually Indian tribe. And whereas in 2025, a project was completed at Fort Steilacoom Park to add native art and cultural interpretive markers along the 1.7-mile Nisqually Loop Trail that includes descriptions of traditional uses of the area, information about the Nisqually tribe, Chief Leshai's legacy, and the Lushootseed seed language. Whereas the city recognizes that we are on the lands of the Nisqually and Steilacoom peoples, and we acknowledge the history of dispossession that allowed for the growth of our own community. And whereas despite this history, Indigenous peoples, their governments, and their communities have persevered and flourished as teachers and scholars, scientists and doctors, writers and artists, business leaders and elected officials, heroes in uniform, and so much more, making immeasurable contributions to our country's progress. And whereas the city offers its profound respect to the Nisqually and Steilacoom people and their elders and reaffirms its commitment to preserve the traditions and culture of the tribes and to honor the unique heritage of our first inhabitants. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Lakewood City Council does hereby proclaim November 2025 as Native American Heritage Month here in the city of Lakewood, and we call upon all residents to commemorate this month with appropriate programs and activities. Proclaim this third day of November 2025, all of us here on the Lakewood City Council. And Hanford, you've been an incredible friend, as has your entire tribal council and the Nisqually people. We really appreciate all you've done with us and for us. Thank you for coming tonight.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Lakewood City Council. What I have from McLeod. I'm the government-to-government official for the, let's say, liaison for tribal council. But it's an honor and a privilege to represent my people here today for this proclamation, not only for this proclamation, but for all the work that we have done here in the past and, of course, looking to the future here of what is there for us to collaborate better on projects and representation of the Indigenous people here I've always been a steward of that. I like to say of if it's, fisherman, diver, gatherer of materials here within the area. I've been a weaver since I've been growing up. So it's that bringing everything together and, making sure that we pass this forward to the next generation, that we leave these things here. So thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. I hope.
Say. And our newest photographer.
One, two, three. Three, two, one.
I didn't yet, so I'll just go ahead and do it. Unless he wants to, but too late, yeah. Next, we have a proclamation recognizing November 11, 2025 as Veterans Day and November 2025 as Veterans Appreciation Month. So I will read the proclamation recognizing Veterans Day. There's no one here to meet me at the podium. Is that right, Madam Clerk? So we'll just read it from here. Whereas members of the Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine, Special Force, Coast Guard, and Merchant Marine have answered a high calling to serve and have helped protect and secure the United States of America at every turn. And whereas United States veterans answered the call when asked to protect our nation from some of the most brutal and ruthless tyrants, terrorists, and militaries the world has ever known. And our veterans stood tall in the face of grave danger and enabled this nation to become the greatest force for freedom. And whereas our country is forever indebted to our veterans for their courage and exemplary service. And whereas we honor those who laid down their lives in freedom's defense and made the ultimate sacrifice for our benefit. And whereas on Veterans Day, we salute those who proudly wore the uniform of the United States of America and the families who sacrificed alongside them. And we affirm our sacred duty as citizens to express our enduring gratitude both in words and in actions for their service. And whereas these brave men and women and their selfless sacrifices continue to inspire us today as we work to advance peace and extend freedom around the world. And whereas, as many veterans face overwhelming unknowns, through community collaborations, we can ensure that those who have served their nation receive the resources and support they deserve. And whereas their abiding patriotism and enduring devotion to the ideals on which the United States is founded provides a permanent inspiration to ensure that our unwavering support as a community endures. And whereas through their commitment to freedom, our veterans have positively impacted millions of lives and have made our country and the world most secure. And the City of Lakewood resolves that their sacrifices will always be remembered. Now, therefore, the Lakewood City Council hereby proclaims November 11, 2025 as Veterans Day and the month of November 2025 as Veterans Appreciation Month. And we encourage all residents to recognize the valor and sacrifice of our veterans and to actively support our local veterans and their family members. Proclaim this third day of November 2025, all of us here on the Lakewood City Council. And I just want to personally extend a thank you to our community connector, the 2-2 Stryker Brigade, and to all the brave women and men and their families that serve our country here as JBLM members and certainly family members within the city of Lakewood for all of us. It is challenging, given the government shutdown, that so many of them could not be here with us today. So we stand here in solidarity with each and every one of them. And those of you who are watching from home, many of you are veterans, and certainly there are veterans here. And I would just ask those of you, those of all of us who have served this great country in uniform, whether on active duty or in the reserves, let's just stand and be recognized, not just for us, but for those who cannot be here tonight, and for those of you who are watching from home. Your sacrifice and your service is honorable, and we appreciate all you have done and continue to do for this great nation and our community here in Lakewood. So thank you. So those of you who've served, please stand.
Michael.
Thank you. It is indeed an honor to be part and parcel of all things Veterans Day as it comes up. As I often mention, my own roots to this area are a bit deep. My grandfather served in World War I as a young man who was an immigrant who came to this country from Italy and found his way to Montana, only to find himself as one of the young men on the western part of the United States who were brought to Camp Lewis in 1917 to train before he was shipped back to Europe. He just came from Europe, and he found himself back in Europe for World War I. And so it's very, very meaningful to me to be part of this community, having served myself at Fort Lewis after I was commissioned as a young second lieutenant, and then my father served in the Navy. So it's an important thing. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. Next, we will recognize our Lakewood Youth Municipal Academy Program participants. I just want to describe a little bit about this program. This past August, the city launched the Lakewood Youth Municipal Academy Pilot Program, a 3-week summer program designed to help young people learn how their local government works and how they can get involved. Over the course of 3 classes at City Hall, students explored how city services operate. They discussed community assets and learned how the City Council's goal of creating a downtown multi-generational community center fits into the bigger picture of building a stronger Lakewood. And I just encourage all of you to figure out how you can help us fund that. So once you get that as a master's class project, we will give you an even better certificate. But the students used ArcGIS technology to map community assets like parks and schools and libraries and grocery stores, and identified areas of the city that could use even more resources. Each student went out into their own neighborhood to find what assets existed or were missing, and brought those insights back for group discussion. Students also got a behind-the-scenes look at some of our community partners. They toured the Emergency Food Network, learning how food donations make their way to families in need. West Pierce Fire and Rescue Station 20, where they even conducted a mock fire code inspection. And the Lakewood Police Station, where they learned about public safety programs and toured the evidence room and the range. Throughout the program, students shared feedback to help us shape the full launch of the program, suggesting small class sizes, continued use of technology, and hands-on tours that connect learning to real-world experiences. We are certainly proud of all of you for your engagement, your curiosity, and your dedication to your community. You embody the future of Lakewood civic leadership, and for that you should be proud. So we're going to share some photos. The clerk is going to play a little video here, and then we'll have you come up. We'll embarrass you a little bit with some photographs, and then we'll have you come up and receive your certificate of participation. Nice, very nice. Was that it for the slides? Well, you all looked fine. Very, very nice there. Yeah, so thank you for doing that. Congratulations. Now the deputy mayor and I will come down and present you your certificates of completion. So as I read your name, please come on up and the deputy mayor will hand you your certificate of completion. And then once everyone has received theirs, we'll gather around and get a group photograph. Alisa Riviere? Riviere. Congratulations. Alicia Nyonho? And we've got Yanjo, thank you. And if I horribly mispronounce your last name, my apologies in advance. Daniela de Jesus. Elijah Staana. Marco Munoz. Not here tonight, okay. Niela Collins. Yay. Vera Rubio. And Zoe Clifford. Come on up, Zoe. All right. Did I get everybody? All right. We did it right. Well, congratulations, guys. And council, come on down. We'll take a photograph with our fine students. I want you to each come up and say one thing. Cool. Say your name, most cool or impact.
Okay, hi, I'm Zoe. I think the coolest thing that we did was like the tours. It was really cool to talk to like the police officers and the fire inspectors. And I think the food bank yeah, if the EFN tour was really cool. I like I knew I've been to a food bank before, but I didn't realize like it was super impactful, like as impactful as it is. Um, I think that was really fun. I also like I had not known any of them before this, so I really liked it. And I think we had a lot of fun with Michael. He was the perfect person to choose to put in charge of this. He had a great time.
Wait a second. Michael was fun. I can't believe it.
Hi, my name is Alicia Nyunjo, and one of the things I enjoyed the most was just really like engaging with different community. Like I never got the chance to actually like embrace the community or know about it. So I think this is a perfect program to just show the youth what actually goes on, and it's like just a great way to just learn and explore about your future. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
My name's Neela Collins, and one of my favorite things from the summer was, I think, probably doing all of the tours. And I liked learning about Lakewood and learning about like the history of Lakewood. And I also liked going on the tours, and I can learn about like different kinds of jobs and things I would like to do in the future.
Hi, my name is Daniela de Jesus, and one of the things I really liked about the program this summer was the food bank. Before then, I've never really known how many people in Lakewood had much food insecurity. So learning about that and like the ways you could help, and then how the food bank truly helps them, it was really cool just touring around it.
Hi, my name's Elijah, and I think one of my favorite things about the program was that we had like with the technology that we had, we kind of like highlighted where the resources were in Lakewood, and from that we kind of like found out where the dead zones were for resources in the area and where the hotspots were, and we kind of talked about how we could possibly like change stuff around so there could be more resources equal for everyone in Lakewood. And I think that was like the coolest thing about the program that over the summer. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Elisa Revere, and my favorite part of the Municipal Court program was going to the fire department. I didn't know like it was really that big because I really just only see it outside of the building. And they taught me how to take a stretcher out. So, and I was the only one who volunteered, so I had a lot of fun.
Hi, my name is Vera Rubio, and my favorite part were the tours and as well as the work we did in here, like when we came back and we were looking at the community map and we would talk about how we can build more like teen community and like youth bonding in our communities. So yeah.
You. Shannon, I suppose you had something to do with this.
Gave students to Michael and I gave him space at our last year's youth council to come in and work out the bugs.
Well, good.
And it
Well,
was all
thank you
wonderful.
both. I mean, that was awesome because the Civics Academy on steroids is really kind of what it sounds like you folks did. Really, really great to have that sort of program. And I'm really proud that you went and looked at kind of the heat map, if you will, of resources that are scarce in Lakewood, because those are the things that would be helpful to get a report about. Do we get some feedback on that back? So we get a little bit of a report, Michael? You have that for us so we can share? That would be great. So just a quick thing, I will say later in council comments, but you guys may end up going home and doing homework. But the Emergency Food Network is a huge community partner, right? Food insecurity is a big deal right now. We had the Emergency Food Network, they do an annual auction, they call it the Gala. This community raised over $600,000 in one night to give to residents here in the community. Emergency Food Network services other areas in Pierce County, but predominantly a lot of Lakewood residents, and there's a high need. So it's an amazing thing that this community did to come out and support food insecurity. So, and you were part of that by visiting. So good for you, right? So we had a mini report from the Youth Council, but we have the formal Youth Council report with Youth Council members Lincoln Estrada and Logan Carrington.
Good evening, Mayor Wallen, Deputy Mayor Moss, and members of the Lakewood City Youth Council. My name is Lincoln Estrada Perez, and I'm a youth council member and a student liaison for the Lakewood Promise Advisory Board. And I am honored to share a brief update on what our board has discussed so far this year. One of our main topics we focused on is youth transportation access. We've heard from many students that getting around the city can be a real barrier, especially for attending events or activities after school. Some students rely on city buses, but routes can be far from where they live. Others have mentioned safety concerns about riding city buses and that very few youth are biking to destinations. In response, we've discussed potential solutions, potentially for the annual youth summit and other youth events such as partnering with Pierce Transit to look at creating specific routes for youth events, encouraging schools and city to work together on transportation plan that supports student participation, possibly commissioning a broader study to gather more student voices and better understand transportation needs across the community. We've also started brainstorming ideas for the upcoming youth summit, including ways to make exciting and relevant with ideas about interactive activities to draw students in. In addition, the Youth Council is also considering partnering with the Superintendent Youth Advisory Council on a service project as suggested by Mr. Ron Banner to strengthen collaboration between our groups Thank you for the opportunity to represent student perspectives on these important issues. I appreciate your continued support of Youth Voice in Lakewood, and I'll now turn it over to Logan to finish our presentation and open it up to questions.
Thank you, Lincoln.
Hi, I'm Logan Carrington. During tonight's meeting, 12 youth council members formed a subgroup and met with Elisa Watt Banks, formerly with Lakewood's Choice, to bring nature-informed mental health practices to area youth, to include having an element included at the April 8th Youth Summit. The group will meet outside Youth Council on the program and bring it back to Youth Council for their buy-in and decision of, or discussion of how it will fit into the Youth Summit. Next, we heard speeches from 2 senior members on why they should be nominated for the AWC Scholarship. After a group vote, Elijah Sta-Anna was chosen to represent the city of Lakewood. Additionally, we chose volunteers for the December 6th Holiday Lights Parade and the December 13th Jingle Bell Run. Finally, we rounded out the evening by brainstorming on activities for the annual Youth Summit. We came up with some fantastic ideas that we anticipate working through to finalize and schedule. That's our presentation for tonight. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Anybody? Well, great report. We appreciate your work, and it looks like you guys are doing lots of good stuff. I guess we'll see you at the tree lighting. That's the next big event. Thank you very much for coming. Next, we have the Clover Park School District report. We have Board Member Brian Thomas. Brian, good to see you.
Good evening, Mayor Whalen, Deputy Mayor Moss, members of the council. For those of you that I haven't met, I'm Brian Thomas. Currently serve as the Vice President of the Clover Park School Board, and I am standing in for Board President Alyssa Anderson Pearson this evening. Just a few updates for the council. Again, this year, the Clover Park School Board has been named Board of Distinction. This is the 2nd year in a row that we have received that award, so we're very proud of that. That was given to us by the Washington State Advisory Commission. As mentioned earlier, in the council meeting, November is Native American Heritage Month, which the school board and the district will be working with our staff and our children, our students, celebrating Native American Heritage Month. Also, November 17th through the 21st is American Education Week. And this is an opportunity for folks to celebrate staff members, community volunteers who have worked very closely with the school district. So we're excited about that. Last, as you know, with the government shutdown, and we've been talking about food insecurities a lot this evening, just wanted to remind the community and the council members that, again, Clover Park School District is providing free lunches to all students in the district. So we hope that helps as much as we can. With that, open up any questions to council members.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Any questions? Is the board through staff receiving much feedback from parents that are going through these challenging times with both?
I think Superintendent Banner and his team are receiving some feedback from the community. We are working closely to see what we can do as a board to help as much as we can.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Well, I don't see any questions for you tonight, so you get off easy. You get to go home and watch some good reality TV show.
reality TV. Right, thank you.
That's what I have to look forward to when I go. This is my reality TV show sometime.
Great, thank you.
Okay, very good. So next is our public comment portion of tonight's agenda. Public comments are accepted by mail, email, or live, virtual, or in-person comment. Comments may be submitted in advance by mail or email to our city clerk, Ms. Brianna Schumacher, at 6000 Main Street Southwest here in Lakewood, or via email at bschumacher@cityoflakewood.us. Comments received up to an hour before the meeting have been provided to the council electronically, and I'll have the clerk read the names of those who have submitted public comment in advance.
Mayor, we received no written comments in advance of this evening's meeting.
Very good. Please note, we do have 2 public hearings this evening. So if you have testimony specific to those topics, please reserve your comments for the public hearings on those 2 topics. And just so you know, the first one is the public hearing on the 2026 property tax levy. That will be the first public hearing we have. And the second is the public hearing on the 2025-26 mid-biennium budget adjustment. So if you have comments related to those topics, I ask that you just reserve your comments for that portion of the agenda. So virtual comment will also be allowed certainly tonight. If you'd like to provide virtual public comment, please join the Zoom meeting as an attendee by calling the telephone number 253-215-8782. Enter the meeting ID number 868-7263-2373, and then we will look for your raised hand so we can call on you appropriately. So the first I will turn to is the public comment sign-in sheet, and Paul Bryce is the first, followed by Dr. Mirjalini.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. My name is Paul Bryce, 20-year plus Lakewood resident here. I wanted to come in and ask about retail cannabis in Lakewood. I'm part of the Social Equity Task Force etched for Washington State history. I was here a couple of years ago when I was doing the work with them all for some years at that time, and now all the licenses rolled out. And somewhere like Lakewood, where I reside, where my kids went to Lakes, president at Lakes High School and whatnot as well. I feel as if minorities, Black or brown, should be able to have cannabis here. We shouldn't have to drive 10 miles to get to either the 112th Pacific or the 74th and South Tacoma Way or their clear choice. We're all clearly adults. I like to think I've been on the Attorney General Crime Retail Panel. I've opened up a couple stores that I think are the safest, and I believe in like KLB, Keep Lakewood Beautiful. You know, we want to take pride in everything that you do, and I believe with the advancements of our technology, with some thoughts and talks, with great locations in mind of the buffer zones and whatnot, there's no reason we can have some type of store here that we're very proud of and safe, and at the same time serves our community, and which is clearly something our community asked for. It's really no different, I see, than prohibition liquor. One time it was legal, then illegal, then now back legal. A couple years ago when I was here, it was 13 states on board, and now it's, I want to say 37. It's just a matter of time. But I'm hoping through this social equity license that it can restart the talks of a lot of the Black or brown or the most harmed on the war on drugs can have a chance or start, especially in a city like Lakewood where we are so diverse. And I feel as if very deserving to have an opportunity and to put something that we're proud of. That's it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next.
Hello, good evening to everyone. My name is Ibrahim Mirjalili. I'm a resident of Lakewood. I wanted to discuss the affordable or low cost housing. Because with the new council coming in, they have to decide on this issue that if, considering that already this is in planning, that what they want to do. I wanted to urge the council and those candidates who are coming to look at this and consider to have a dual use structures, not only residential, but maybe commercial and residential mix. Why? Because those families who come here, first, we know that really financially they are not as well as some of us are. Second, we want to provide their kids with good education. If they come here, and there are so many of them, and we cannot provide them with good education, not only we are going to have crimes problem, they are going to be poor, they are going to be desperate, and that's not going to serve them. This is not the community we want. We want them to succeed. We want them to excel. And we need to help them financially. One way is to do that. That also helps the city in its revenue. By having an excise tax, then it doesn't have to go and tax the city residents both ways. Why? On a property tax on one way, levy another way, tax breaks to the developers another way. So really, you want to take a look at that. And that way, you could also, you don't have to build so many homes. You only want to build as many as is needed, and it's really affordable for the city and the city residents who are already here. And really, this council is representing them. I have talked about this before, and I know this council is aware, but I know the other candidates whom they are going to be elected tomorrow. And I think that's a duty for those who really believe in the system to do that, to choose individuals that really they are going to represent them, represent their community, and they really have a good intent. They are not here for developers necessarily, and they're not here just to build units like in Seattle that they were unoccupied. I understand many of them. Thank you very much.
That is the last individual who is signed up on the sheet to provide public comment in person, but if you are here and have not yet signed in, let that not hold you back. So if you'd like to provide public comment, now is the time. Seeing no additional takers, we'll turn to those who are appearing virtually. The first is Christina Minetti, followed by James Dunlop.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. This is Christina Minetti, Lakewood. First, I'd like to ask the city redouble its efforts to stop racing activities at the Colonial Center. It's gotten bad again. But mostly I would like to address the comments made by Mayor Whalen 2 city council meetings ago, in which he described certain public comments as useful and others as unuseful. Those are his words. Public comment is one of the cornerstones of democratic government. It is one of the few opportunities residents have to speak directly to their elected representatives. When a mayor or any official labels some comments as useful and others as not, it sends a truly chilling message. It tells people that unless their opinions align with the administration's perspective, their voices do not count. That undermines trust in this council and discourages others from participating in future meetings. The mayor is not only a member of the council, but also its presiding officer. In that role, he is expected to listen, not pass judgment on the content of public comments. We're always told that they can't say anything. Evaluating and deliberating on those perspectives is the responsibility of the entire council collectively. By declaring which comments are useful, the mayor effectively told his fellow council members and the public whether they should value the testimony offered. That kind of preemptive framing influences debate and undermines open-minded governance. Several of the so-called unuseful comments raised legitimate concerns, such as the city's single-minded pursuit of grants that result in damaging projects, such as the removal of protected Gary Oaks for low-use sidewalks and the demolition of a family home to create a boat trailer parking lot at Edgewater Park. Whether or not the mayor agreed, those questions deserved respectful consideration, not dismissal. The act of judging public input from the dais amounts to bullying, not just of the speakers who came forward that night, but of future residents who may now hesitate to speak up, and even of other council members who will feel less confident to speak their own mind about the so-called unuseful public comments. I urge this council to reaffirm that all public comment is valuable and that every citizen's voice deserves to be heard without prejudice or public rebuke from those in power. Thank you. And now I have a second comment from the Gary Oak Coalition. Christina Minetti, Gary Oak Coalition, Lakewood. The Gary Oak Coalition urges the city of Lakewood to adopt regulations prohibiting free roaming cats. This issue is urgent. Free roaming cats are responsible for the deaths of billions, yes, billions with a B, of birds and other wildlife each year in the United States, causing severe harm to biodiversity and local ecosystems. One of our Lakewood members recently discovered that a free roaming cat had killed 3 wild birds on his property within 24 hours, an alarming example of a widespread problem. Scientific studies, including those cited by Audubon, show that outdoor cats kill an estimated 2.4 to 4 billion birds annually in the United States, far surpassing threats like habitat loss or window collisions. They also kill up to 12.3 billion small mammals each year, as well as reptiles and insects, destabilizing ecosystems and food webs. Since 1970, North America's bird population has declined by 29%, while the number of cats has tripled to around 90 million owned and 60 to 100 million unowned cats. We are deeply concerned by the misconception that trap, neuter, return, or release TNR programs solve this problem. While TNR may limit population growth, neutered cats continue to hunt and kill wildlife. Studies show that TNR does not significantly reduce predation or overall cat impacts and thus fails to address the ecological damage being done. To effectively protect wildlife, we recommend that Lakewood adopt measures similar to those in Mount Vernon, Washington, including leash law for cats, requiring cats to be kept indoors or in an enclosed outdoor space, like a catio, I think they're calling them, unless under direct supervision, and a ban on free roaming cats, prohibit cats from roaming freely within city limits. Humane management alternatives support adoption programs and resources for keeping cats indoors rather than relying solely on TNR, and public education campaigns help to inform residents about the environmental harm caused by free roaming cats and promote responsible pet ownership. Many people think, oh, it's just like the racing, right? Boys will be boys. People have always raced in America. Cats will be cats. Cats kill birds. So what if they bring one in every once in a while as a trophy? That's just what cats do. But no, cats are actually an invasive species. They came with the European colonists, and they do not belong here. So by enacting these measures, Lakewood can lead the way in protecting wildlife, preserving biodiversity, and ensuring a healthy balance between people, pets, and nature. Thank you very much.
Next, James Dunlop.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is James Dunlop. I'm a resident of Lakewood, and I'm going to try to be constructive in my comment. I think that Lakewood, in terms of its Lakewood elections and its history as a city, has a potential democracy deficit. And this is not necessarily the fault of anyone, but it is true to say that in Lakewood's history, I believe that for the last 24 years, an incumbent has never been defeated in an election. I think the last time an incumbent was defeated was in 2001, when I think 3 incumbents were defeated, I believe. Now, that means that in Lakewood, incumbency is a huge advantage. You know, once someone is an incumbent, once someone is on the city council and they want to stay as a city council, and they want to stay as a city councillor, it's pretty much impossible to remove them, assuming they don't, I don't know, commit a felony or leave the city or die. But so it is difficult. But I think that the way Lakewood works at the moment, you make matters worse. And I think the problem Lakewood has is that, when you follow, Washington state law, when a councillor, decides to drop out, they move to another city or they get promoted, they go to somewhere different, like, Doug Richardson did, I think, in 2012, or Linda Farmer did a few years ago. The city gets to pick the replacement. And the city, so essentially the city picks the replacement, and I believe there are two members of the current city council who were picked by the wider council. They immediately have the incumbent's advantage. Now, I understand that you are following Washington state rules. So in one sense, you can't do anything about that. But what I would suggest to perhaps make Lakewood more democratic is that, given that we've got an election tomorrow, is that the city council perhaps adopts some kind of a convention about how you choose replacements for city councillors who drop out, or again, they move to a different area, or they get elected to something else. And I would suggest that you kind of follow what you did in 2012, 2013. So I believe in 2012, 2013, when Doug Richardson went to Pierce Council, she was replaced, I believe, with Helen McGovern, who was basically a stand-in. And so as far as possible, when you choose a replacement, you should try to choose someone who has no intention of standing at the following election, so that you don't force incumbency on Lakewood. And I think that by doing that, by adopting that convention, you'll be making the city more democratic.
That's the last individual with a virtual hand raised. Madam Clerk, am I missing anyone?
Mayor, there are no other virtual hands raised.
Very good, then I'll declare the public comment period closed. We now turn to the consent agenda. Madam Clerk?
A, approval of the minutes of the city council meeting of October 20th, 2025. B, approval of claims vouchers in the amount of $4,012,637.39 for the period of September 16th, 2025 through October 15th, 2025. C, approval of payroll checks in the amount of $3,436,133.63 for the period of September 15th, 2025 through October 15th, 2025. D, motion number 2025-74, authorizing the award of a construction contract to R.L. Alia Company in the amount of $1,090,572.09 for the Grant and Orchard Sewer Extension Project. E, motion number 2025-75, authorizing the award of a construction contract to R.L. Alia Company in the amount of $1,481,837.97 for the Silcox, Wadsworth, and Boat Sewer Extension Project. F, motion number 2025-76, appointing Alana Ball to serve on the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee. G, items filed in the office of the city clerk. 1, Planning Commission meeting minutes of September 17th, 2025.
Thank you very much. Is there any item which any council member wishes to remove from consent agenda consideration at this time? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented? It's been moved by Councilmember Bell, seconded by Councilmember Lauricella, that we adopt the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda has been adopted. We move to the regular agenda, public hearings and appeals. Madam Clerk.
This is the date set for a public hearing on the 2026 property tax levy.
Thank you. For this, we have our Deputy City Manager, Ms. Kraus, to give an overview of this item.
So Washington state law requires a public hearing prior to the setting of the 2026 property tax levy. The IPD, the implicit price deflator for property tax, is 2.44%. which means the city can levy a 1% property tax increase consistent with state law without a substantial needs ordinance. The property tax levy proposed is a 1% increase. This is compared to the 2025 levy rate at the 1%. This would be $9.55 increase to the average homeowner, and that would be $382.16 per year for the city's portion of the property tax. With the no increase, that would amount to $378.41, which is a $5.81 increase compared to what the levy rate was for 2025. The city has, since 2006, enacted the 1% increase. The cumulative impact of not taking the 1% increase in 2026 over a 6-year period is $500,000. On November 17th, following this public hearing, the recommendation will be for the city council to increase the property tax levy by 1% consistent with state law. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Kraus. And just for clarity's sake, the 1% is on the aggregate value of assessed properties in the city, correct? And that's spread?
It's spread, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's property tax will increase by 1%.
Correct.
Yes,
Right.
correct.
So the question I have in the packet, I'm looking at page 88, where it says scenario 1 and scenario 2. Scenario 1 is no increase whatsoever by the city. But even with no increase, the annual property tax would still go up about 1.6%. Is that right?
Yes, it's a change compared to the average homeowner, what they paid in 2025.
And that's kind of assessed valuation, just fluctuation change.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So the actual scenario 2, the 1% increase equates to an approximate increase of $3.75 on average.
Compared between the no increase and the 1% increase, the difference is $3.75.
Thank you. Mr. Brandstetter.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Kraus, I too have a question about math. And I'm looking at the ordinance that's in our packet. There's a example ordinance that would come before us going forward. And it does say that the city is looking to make the increase of the maximum 1% as allowed by the state law to do that. But then in section 1 of the ordinance, it says the dollar amount of the increase over the actual levy amount from the previous year, which I took to be 2025, shall be $42,296.96, which is a percentage increase of 0.57%. So how does a 1% increase become a 0.05% increase?
This section here is actually coming directly off of Pierce County's required language for the ordinance. So in order to have a 1% increase, Pierce County specifically wrote this paragraph and required us to put in the 42,296.96 and the increase from the previous year of 0.5731%. So that is directly coming off of Pierce County. It never really lines up to the calculations that we have, but at the end of the day, if we put this in per what they have stated for us to do, we would get the 1% increase. Absent this language, we would not be in compliance with their requirements.
So I understand the 42,000 plus increase is a number that Pierce County is saying the city would get if we vote to have a 1% increase. but that our calculations show that that much of an increase would only be 0.57%. So is the 1% then a portion of it going to the county and not coming to us so that we're only going to get 42,000?
To be honest, Councilmember Brandstetter, I did not verify it this time. I went with what the county has provided in their language, but I went back and I verified the numbers based on the calculation to information that the county provided. So basically, by taking the highest lawful levy and adding the 1% calculation, I come back with the same amount that the county has. I did not go back in and verify what the county put in the ordinance. It's just language that they had given us and says that you are required to put this in and the numbers have to match in order for us to get the 1%. I didn't go back and double check the county's math.
So in the numbers that the county gave us, but you think that the 42,296 number is accurate for a 1% increase in what we received the last time?
Yes, this is what the county has provided. If you put this number in, you get the 1% increase.
Okay, but the calculation to say that that is not 1%, but that is 0.57%, that's a county calculation in some way?
It's a county calculation, and to be honest, I haven't verified the county's calculation in a number of years. I did in the beginning, but I've stopped doing that just because I know that if I put that number in, I'll get the 1% because the county sends out a letter that says you must input these numbers in your ordinance in order to get the 1% increase.
Okay, well, I would just say that in terms of the public hearing and that members of the public thinking 1% increase and then thinking 0.57% increase, it's difficult to equate those in terms of doing that. But I assume that the county has some rationale for their number, and I know that the 1% increase, all of it doesn't come to the city because there's a slight percentage that goes elsewhere. Okay, if in the next week or 2 weeks there's some illuminating information about the difference between those two, I'd appreciate hearing it.
I'm happy to bring back the calculation on November 17th when I present this for adoption. I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Boki, do you have any questions for Ms. Kraus or some
I don't.
illuminating comments?
I'm going to throw in my 2 cents, even though this is a public hearing and really not our
Thank you.
discussion.
Yeah.
Just wanted to remind everybody of that. I think it has to do with administrative refunds because my day job, I ran into this on 3 separate occasions. And you have to somehow know what the administrative, so you get the 1%, but the administrative refunds are money that comes in from, and maybe Ms. Kraus can speak to it. I can't. So that can't be in your base. You have to subtract the administrative refunds from what you would think would be the 1% because you're getting, or you either have already received or you're getting in the future. So I don't know if they do it prospectively or.
This is something the county calculates for cities like.
Yes, because the state comes in and gives these administrative refunds based upon some of their accounting that, oh, we owe you more money. You should have received more, mainly for the state assessed property, I think.
There's actually a number of factors that go into the levy calculation.
Yeah.
And that includes just the base levy with the highest lawful levy. And this is going back a number of years because 13 years ago, the city council had the same question on why the ordinances didn't match. And then there were no questions for a number of years. And I stopped trying to figure out the calculation, but I'm happy to do that for this next one. So it is the base levy, which is the highest lawful levy, and then applying the 1% increase, there is the new construction estimate that goes into this calculation for the 1%, as well as the administrative refunds and the state assessed property increases as well. So those get all factored in. There also is other numbers. These are just preliminary numbers. And so the county will give us final levy certifications in December. And at that time, we'll have the opportunity to make some adjustments in order to get that 1%. The way that the city has done this previously is not the way that I have historically done it in my previous job. If we are going to set an ordinance that, so what Councilmember Branstetter is referring to is the levy certification. So the levy certification is what the state or the county requires us to put in. We also have the ordinance, which the city council will approve a certain amount that the city can collect, and that would be our levy rate. Or our levy, the full amount that we expect to receive or are authorized to receive. So they are two different ones. One is a levy certification per the county, and then one is the city's ordinance that sets the levy. So, but I will come
Does that help?
back with more information.
Anything else, Mr. Boki? Very good. Any other questions of Ms. Kraus? Very good. Thank you, Ms. Kraus. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is the date set for the public hearing on the 2026 property tax levy. Public testimony is accepted by mail, email, or live, virtual, or in-person comment. Comments may be submitted in advance by mail or email to our city clerk, Ms. Brianna Schumacher at 6000 Main Street Southwest here in Lakewood, or email bschumacher@cityoflakewood.us. The clerk will read the name of any individual who has submitted written testimony in advance for the public hearing.
Mayor, we received no testimony in advance of this public hearing.
Okay, very good. So live testimony is limited to 3 minutes per person. Again, for purposes of our record, please come to the microphone, state your name, residence, and you'll have your 3 minutes to speak. Virtual testimony will also be allowed, just like we did for the open public comment period. Call the telephone number 253-215-8782. Enter the meeting ID number 868-7263-2373. And please use the raise the hand feature to be called upon. First individual who is signed in to provide public testimony during this public hearing is Mr. Abraham Mergelini.
Hello again to the member of the council and the city residents, also the candidates. I want to ask the council to reject this proposal. Reason being is that that would actually increases the taxes of the property owner $10.56 according to the News Tribune. That's for the property tax. But there is also 1% increase for utility taxes. That one increases the utility taxes from 5% to 6%. So really, when we are talking about 1%, it is 2% plus 5% more that they are already paying, and whatever taxes they are. My proposal is that for the affordable housings unit that they are going to build, they give them a partial tax break, and they have them to pay this levy to cover that. So it would be a shared responsibility for everybody. The city residents would be happier, and the developers, they would participate, and hopefully they would enjoy the same thing that they would expect the city residents to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other individual wish to provide public testimony during the public hearing on the 2026 property tax levy? Seeing none, I'll turn to those who are appearing virtually. The first is Ms. Minetti.
Hello, Christina Minetti, Lakewood. I'm commenting today to oppose the proposed property tax levy within the city of Lakewood. As a homeowner, I believe that Lakewood's current property tax rate is already too high. The tax information provided is complicated, but what I know is that I'm opposed to any increase, no matter how seemingly small. Lakewood's property tax rate seems already to be among the highest in the region. According to the Washington State Department of Revenue, back in 2023, it was higher than in Seattle, and apparently it's going to be even more, according to the numbers we saw today. This discrepancy is especially concerning, considering that Seattle offers more public services and amenities, of course. Homeowners in Lakewood are paying more in property taxes, yet with fewer resources in return. I realize that a significant portion of these taxes go to the Clover Park School District. Some of them also go to the City of Lakewood's general fund, which supports services like public safety, parks, and infrastructure. While education is critical, the current tax burden is already a strain for homeowners who are dealing, like Dr. Mir Jalili just said, with other increases in energy and things like that, and as well as inflation and, you know, all the price increases of everything. Homeowners are feeling the weight of these rising costs. Any further increase in property taxes would add even more pressure, especially at a time when many residents are struggling with inflation and higher living expenses. With the current high tax rate, Lakewood risks driving homeowners out of the city. A property tax increase could also lower affordability for potential buyers, stalling home sales and potentially even reducing property values. Furthermore, many of us wonder often about the wisdom of how our tax dollars are being spent by the city. We have the very real concern that an increase in funds will only lead to more wasteful spending rather than effective investment in services. There is a growing sense that more money will simply create more opportunities for inefficiency without solving the underlying issues. While I understand that municipalities need revenue to fund essential services, I believe raising property taxes is not the right solution. I urge the City Council to consider the long-term impact on homeowners and explore alternative funding options that do not burden residents further. Thank you.
Next, James Dunlop.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
My name is James Dunlop, and I'm a resident of Lakewood. I don't know if you've been following British politics, but a major controversy in British politics at the moment is whether or not to have a wealth tax. So a wealth tax means that if you have wealth, whether it's in property, shares, whatever, above a certain level, you will have to pay a percentage of that in terms of a taxation. So you don't have to sell something to pay a tax. And the concept of a wealth tax, I assume, would be regarded as being fairly un-American, to tax what you have, to tax your assets. But a property tax is essentially a wealth tax, which affects everyone. And so most people have the bulk of their assets in property, even if they have a mortgage. So I think that when the city already is effectively imposing a wealth tax on Lakewood's residents, they have to be very careful about that power and what impact. It might seem like an incremental increase, but you can perhaps carry on with incremental increases, particularly if at the state level the permission is allowed. I believe that's how it works. So better than me to raise the maximum level of the property tax. But again, I think it is a wealth tax, and so that is a big responsibility, and this means that the city needs to carefully think about other means of raising money, or indeed saving money. I think that there is a natural tendency for any bureaucracy to just naturally expand, not to sort of sort of decrease or to rationalize, and maybe that's just the nature of government. They just sort of gets larger. Now, I was, for example, listening to public comments earlier, and I think it was Paul Bryce was talking about cannabis shops. And I know that's a controversial issue. I'm not saying, for example, that cannabis shops should be allowed. I mean, but there's a big debate about it. I understand there are mental health issues with cannabis, but that would be a potential way for Lakewood to raise extra revenue. I've no idea how much extra revenue you could have by allowing cannabis shops to be placed in Lakewood, but you have to think about other ideas. So before you start raising property taxes, I think you need to firstly think about possible savings in the city. I mean, that's not obviously what city bureaucrats want to do. They want to expand, in most cases, rather than reduce their operations. And also, harmless, well, I think relatively harmless, because if people are going to buy cannabis, they're going to buy it somewhere. So Lakewood residents, they might as well give their tax dollars to Lakewood, the city of Lakewood, rather than to give it to another city.
Thank you. That is the last virtual hand I see raised to provide testimony during the public hearing on the 2026 property tax levy. Madam Clerk, am I missing any virtual hands?
Mayor, there are no other virtual hands raised at this time.
Very well. I will declare the public hearing closed. We now turn to the next matter. This is the date set for the public hearing on the 2025-26 mid-biennium budget adjustment. And for this, we have our Deputy City Manager, Ms. Kraus.
Good evening. So similar to the property tax public hearing, a public hearing is also required for the 25-26 biennial budget adjustment. This item was presented to you last month, and I want to highlight a couple changes or a few changes that was made since the last presentation. The first one, which you also received information from our city manager, is the interlock bridge repair. And this is a request for $200,000 in one-time funds. These funds will be used and allocated for $50,000 for the timber preservation consultant, $20,000 for permitting, and $30,000 for pile and curbing. As you remember, the city also made some efforts in repairing the bridge last year or so, and there is additional work that needs to be done. The city will also need to take a look on a long-term basis, the ongoing maintenance and repair of this bridge. So the $200,000 from the general fund is a new request. The other two requests are related to grants, so there is no budgetary impact. This is the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission has a wellness grant of $13,800, and the Department of Commerce has an Office of Firearm Safety and Violence Prevention in the amount of $8,529. So in terms of the budget adjustments and the impact it has on the general fund, for the 25 and 26 budget, the city is in compliance with the financial policies, and we meet our ending fund balance reserves. It's the future that will need to be considered as we move into the 27 and 28 budget and beyond. And all of this information, the details of each of these or budget requests are included in the council packet and has been posted on our city's website. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Kraus. Just one question as I see on page 102 of the packet. The mid-biennium budget adjustment includes continuation of the neighborhood coordinator 1.0 FTE for payment. That's correct?
Yes, that is correct. There are a number of positions that are expected to expire at the end of 2025. The recommendation is to continue the neighborhood coordinator position for the outreach and the relationships with the community and the efforts that have been made with outreach.
Which is something we heard strongly from various residents at the neighborhood meetings, so thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Any questions of Ms. Kraus? Very good. This is the date set for the public hearing on the 2025-2026 mid-biennium budget adjustment. Public testimony is accepted by mail, email, or live, virtual, or in-person comment. Comments may be submitted in advance by mail to the city clerk or email at 6000 Main Street Southwest here in Lakewood, or email bschumacher@cityoflakewood.us. The clerk will read the names of those who have submitted testimony in advance.
Mayor, we received no testimony in advance of this hearing.
Very good. There are two opportunities to provide public testimony during this public hearing on the mid-biennium budget adjustment, that being in person or virtual. If you'd like to provide virtual testimony, you certainly may by dialing 253-215-8782. Enter the meeting ID number 868-7263-2373 and use the raise the hand feature to be called upon. I'll first call on those who have appeared on the sign-in sheet for the public hearing on this mid-biennium budget adjustment. I don't have any names down, but if you'd like to provide testimony, please step up to the microphone, provide your name, residence, and you will receive your 3 minutes.
Hello again, my name is Ibrahim Mirjalili. I'm a resident of Lakewood. Regarding this biennial budget of the city, this is really the most important budget that the city deals with. I understand that it gets 7% of the property taxes, and starting after September 1st of the first year, looks at its budget, biennial budget. It appears to me that also the city gets some funds from the federal government, governmental agencies. Is that calculated in this? And how much is it that the city gets? So if this, I just looking at this, and I want to know that really how much of an increase would be. When you go to the grocery store these days, you see even within the past few months, the prices have increased about maybe 15 to 20% on some items. So the city residents' income, I don't believe that is keeping up in general. If you want to increase this, you are welcome to do that, but I don't think if it's a good idea, and I urge you to reject that. Thank you very much. Maybe there is so many, I know that there are so many permits you issue, you get some funds through that. I don't know if it's all needed or not, but maybe there are some positions that it would not be needed to have that, and the government needs to be more leaner and better serving the public. Thank you very much.
Are there any other members of the audience that wish to provide public testimony during the 2025-26 mid-biennium budget adjustment? Seeing none, I'll turn to those that may be appearing virtually. Madam Clerk, I don't see any hands raised.
Mayor, there are no virtual hands raised at this time.
Very well, then I'll declare the public hearing on the 25-26 mid-biennium budget adjustment closed. We now turn to resolutions. Resolution 25-13. Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2025-13, establishing the 2026 docket of comprehensive plan land use and zoning map policy amendments.
Thank you. For this, we have our planning manager, Tiffany Spear, to provide an overview.
Thank you, and good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This topic begins on page 133 of the packet this evening, and you'll see there the agenda bill for Resolution 2025-13, followed by a summary and then the full text of all of the topics that would be covered through the docket. So this was in front of the council and study session October 13th, and then there was a October 20th public hearing. We did receive one set of written comments at that hearing, but no oral comments either online or in person. So what you have here is draft resolution 2025-13, which includes the 23 amendments that were listed and discussed in previous meetings. And the next steps, assuming this moves forward this evening, is that the city will go back and draft SEPA analyses and substantive language that the Planning Commission will pick up next spring, and then it will be in front of you for review next spring, summer timeframe. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. Spear? Oh, Mr. Pearson.
Is this, can I ask a question about any of these or?
Sure.
Okay, I just, Ms. Spear, 2026 dash 19, I've heard some discussion, that's the one about the pre-approval or some pre-approved ADU designs, and I've heard mixed, not really mixed, mostly negative. It's not really negative, I guess. It's just that they aren't really used that much in some other jurisdictions, and it's kind of a good idea, but it really isn't that great in practice. Like you can't just have all of these, box ADUs because sites are different and things like that. So, I would just, I guess, I would strike that one from the list if it was up to me. And I do like the self-certification. I think that program could be much more beneficial than spending effort and time trying to come up with a handful of kind of preconceived ADUs that may not really get used that much. So that's my only comment on that. Yeah.
Any other questions of Ms. Spear? Mr. Brandstetter.
Well, I'll just comment on Mr. Pearson's comments. The idea of a jurisdiction adopting a series of pre-approved plans for ADUs is something that has gotten discussion in a variety of views about how practical it would be in different jurisdictions within SHAPE. I think it's one of those things that has been encouraged for the city to look at. Okay, I think that the Planning Commission it was on their list of things which they sent to us to wanting to include on the docket, so that they're taking on the work to really do that evaluation. Is this workable and of value in the city of Lakewood, given the diversity of our neighborhoods and things to do that? So I don't have any problem with it remaining on the docket. I think that it is one of those things that the Planning Commission needs to take some scrutiny of, and that 6 months from now, when this all comes back to us, is a time for then us to take some scrutiny on it if it's still there.
Very good. Again, this is the time for questions of Ms. Spear. Once we get the motion on the table, we can chat about it. Any questions of Ms. Spear? Very good. Thank you for your work on this. So now I need to have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2025-13. Again, this is just establishing the docket for the review of the comprehensive land use and zoning map policy amendments for 2026. You have a motion?
I move adoption of resolution number 2025-13.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Boki, seconded by Deputy Mayor Moss, that we adopt Resolution 2025-13. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 2025-13 has been adopted. We now look to the city manager. I don't see any unfinished or new business, so reports by the city manager, Ms. Kraus.
The only report I have for you is upcoming events, and they're all related to neighborhood association meetings and such. So November 11th at 6:30 p.m., we have the Tillicum Neighborhood meeting at the Tillicum Community Center. And then on November 12th at 5:30 p.m., the Downtown Neighborhood Association meeting at the Lakewood Library. November 13th at 7 PM, the Lake City Neighborhood Association meeting at West Pierce Fire Station. November 18th, between 8:30 AM and 12 PM, the United Way from Poverty to Possibilities 2025 at the Hotel Murano. Also on November 18th is the Fort Steilacoom Neighborhood Association meeting at 6:30 PM at Fort Steilacoom Park. November 19th, from 6 AM to 6 PM is the Fallen Officers Food Drive at the Lakewood Police Station. Donations will be accepted between November 14th and the 24th at various locations. On November 20th, you have the Springbrook Neighborhood Meeting at Springbrook Park at 4:30 PM. And that concludes my update.
Any questions of Ms. Kraus? Mr. Brandstetter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Kraus, there was until recently an event for the SSMCP elected officials semi-annual meeting, and then I got notice that it was canceled, and I didn't know whether it was just canceled for the date that it was and is going to be rescheduled, or are we just going to wait 6 months?
It is going to be when the military can do those types of events. So right now, it is because of the federal government. And so they weren't able to be here this evening for the proclamation. And this meeting has also been canceled for the same reason. And it has not been rescheduled yet.
So we can expect it when the federal government funds itself to see it rescheduled?
That's my understanding, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Ms. Kraus? Do we know if the Eagle has landed in South Korea? The city manager?
The Eagle has landed.
Very good. Okay. All right. Then we'll turn to council comments. Why don't we start with Mr. Boki?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I must ask Councilmember Brandstetter to sit in for me at the November 7th SHAPE meeting. Got moved back 1 week. It was going to be, they moved it to the 7th. So if you could, are you available? Because I have a meeting that morning.
Certainly willing to do that, but I think the November 7th meeting in its entirety was canceled.
Oh, I unless there was there a new email that just came in? There's something from today. Oh, it is canceled. Thank you. Yes, November 7th. It just came in today, November 7th canceled. All right, so we'll aim for December 5th. They should be able to make that.
But I'd be glad to communicate your disappointment in the cancellation.
Well, I had a it's actually not a bad thing because I have a meeting I have to be at. So it conflicts with that. So my day job. Beyond that, I don't think I have much to report actually right now. So I'll just pass on that. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Lauricella.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I just want to say that I'm happy to see that the construction projects for the Tillicum sewers got approved. That's really important to improve quality of life for our residents in Tillicum, as well as water quality for American Lake. So I'm glad we approved that today. 2 weekends ago, I got to participate in the community cleanup event. Looked like there was a good turnout of folks there. We were vehicle number 100 for the day, and it was only about noon. So
wow,
that was pretty good. And the last thing, so this is the third time I've been here for the property tax levy discussion. And to me, I find it interesting that we aren't able to keep up with inflation due to state law, right? So we get inflation's 2.5% to 3% a year. We can only go up by 1% in our property tax levy. So it's hard to keep up our services to match what inflation is. And looking back at the data that was provided, only 4 out of the last 25 years has inflation been less than that 1%. So it's a struggle to keep up, but our city staff does a good job of making sure we're doing a good work for our people. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's see, next week I am going to the Housing Developer Forum in UP. So little double dip on my day job and this, so that'll be fun for that. Another thing, yeah, I would just add on to the comments about the property taxes, and you know, the city of Lakewood really runs a pretty lean budget when you really step back and think about what is funded, and it's largely police and parks. I mean, that's what we are here doing. And so, you know, when inflation's going up by so much, we're cutting down, like those are the two areas that you're cutting down. You're either not doing parks projects or you're, you know, not providing as much public safety. So yeah, and somehow you gotta maintain your roads, and we've done a great job of getting grants and things like that to be able to do a lot of these recent road projects. So we've been really lucky, I think, in that sense. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to. So for me, I think that, you know, when you look at how lean the city runs and what it really puts its money to, you know, a lot of this, we've got a lot of great parks projects that, you know, kind of on the top goals for us as a council, and those will be making a big impact for generations to come. So I think those are going to be, you know, money well spent and worth the increase. I had another comment, but I totally blanked on it. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Councilmember Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to thank the Youth Council today for coming and, of course, giving their report, but I really appreciated the Municipal Academy Pilot Program. I just found it really interesting that everything that they learned, they incorporated a lot of GIS information, which is so useful. And they also loved their experiences that they went out on. So I found that maybe there's more things that we could do, take them along, and in essence do our form of a ride along or something like that might be beneficial. I also wanted to reiterate what the interim city manager was saying about the fallen officers food drive. So I was wondering about if there's any other food drives. I know we have the emergency food drive. Donate there, but I love the fact that we are doing the food drive. It's on November 19th from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Lakewood Police Department. And I encourage everybody to drop by, drop some things off, but you can always donate anytime. And I think that that's just a very important message and amplified right now. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Brandstetter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This past Saturday, I did attend the Korean Women's Association Community Expo. And the combination of, and I wouldn't call them vendors because there weren't people there selling things. There were people there with offers to help and information about how they could help people. And then there were many people that came to participate and be there across to do that. The folks, the organizations that came and that were represented, you know, ran a gauntlet from people that are looking to help people with housing, people that are looking to help people with medical issues. Certainly there were some folks there that were talking about options that people had relating to food insecurity, education, and it was a very robust event that was both very well coordinated, but put on with enthusiasm. There were some organizations from other states, but who had outreach options that they would be willing to serve folks in Pierce County. And it was a first annual event is how it was described by the Korean Women's Association. And I certainly hope that that's a harbinger of the fact that it can happen annually, being able to go and do that. It was planned well before the federal government's self-imposed problems. So, but that tended to make it somewhat timely for many people who came that were looking for things. So I think that you know, the Korean Women's Association, you know, them putting it on in the manner that they did it is definitely laudable and of great service to the community. Mr. Vargas has disappeared, but I did volunteer for a couple of hours with him at the Lakewood cleanup 2 weekends ago, being able to go and do that. I got damp. He got very damp, considering that he spent the 2 whole days out there, being able to go and do that. And I think it was participation was down, but the people who came were no less appreciative of the opportunity to dispose of things that for some inexplicably had just appeared, and being able to go and do that. Certainly something worth going in the and despite the inclemency of the weather, the LeMay folks who were there and running it were you know, did a good job with good attitudes and interacted in a very friendly way with everyone that came through there to be able to go and do that. I was interested in the update that we just recently received from the city manager that about we're going to have to start paying more frequent attention to the bridge on Interlochen over Lake Steilacoom, being able to go and do that, which was a little surprising to me, because I thought that the last time when we did a major thing that we thought, well, we were going to be good for nearly a decade to be able to go and do that, but it goes on off. But you know, the projection about needing to biennially make some investment in inspections and perhaps doing some things to keep that bridge safe and going on to do that. I think that, well, he did not mention it, if we're going to be doing some frequent enhancements to the bridge, I will say that I have no idea what kind of shape the bridge is in, but I do know that the bridge is frequently crowded with people fishing, and that if there is some way to provide some enhancement, like a lower platform that people can get down to do that, or do something, you know, that's one of those amenities we can work out and look at it in the future, if we're going to actually be doing some repetitive series of work on the bridge. See how to integrate that at some point in time, because it's obviously fishing is an item of interest to folks that are there, and from having stopped and talked to some folks there, the fishing is actually pretty good there. So look to go through and do that. And the last thing I comment on is on the 2 contracts that are on the consent agenda today that were for adding another 5 segments of sewers in Tillicum. You know, we've been, for more than a decade, we've been working to get Tillicum brought up to the standards of the rest of the city in terms of having a sanitary sewer service to be able to go and do that. And I was glad to see that this is a 2 contracts that were contributed with funds from Pierce County through their ARPA funds, as well as our sewer availability and in-service funds of being able to go and do that. And that they're, and at least one of them is reaching down into those areas that are closer to the lake shore, which is a place that is really important to get sewers into those to do that. So, and while they are not the final 2 projects to complete all that work, they are in fact significant incremental steps. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Moss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of comments. I was really thrilled to hear the Youth Council talk about the lessons that they learned through their tours in our community. I think this is a program that I hope they can continue with that, and that the council can continue to work with them, because those are valuable lessons, and there's lessons that they will never forget, and they will always reach back for others. The only other thing I would like to say is to make sure that you get your votes in by 8 p.m. tomorrow night is the deadline. So, Mr. Mayor, did you get your ballot?
I did.
Thank you very much. So
Several times. Yeah.
I did only once.
Yep.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. I just want to echo the comments about the Youth Council. I really not only enjoy hearing them report about what they did, but to glean from them the important point of their experience. And I think what I would encourage us or you folks to think about the next time is to actually have a little mini study session with the Youth Council where you can actually sit down, we can do a little meal thing, spend some time with them and really learn about them as individuals and you know what they enjoyed learning about the process and what was important to them, and really glean more student voice. It's great to get the feedback briefly in a 15-minute presentation, but I think it would go a long way to having a good dedicated hour or 2 with them. I think they'd appreciate it. Yeah, I think it would be great for not only for them, but for us. I think they had a lot of good things to say. Yes, tomorrow is election day, so I encourage everyone to vote and get your ballots in for sure. I appreciated the opportunity to do the Veterans Day proclamation today. I was a bit saddened, of course, that our military friends and neighbors were not able to be present tonight. We hope that we can get together soon. We certainly appreciate their service to this community and to the nation, and so hopefully the activities at the federal level will align with community priorities and things will come back to some sense of normalcy soon. In terms of food insecurity, many of us have heard about the SNAP program benefits that are, you know, problematic for many members of our community. The food insecurity is real. I just want to report back, as I mentioned tonight briefly, that at the EFN event that was held at our own McGavick Center, yet again a wonderful use of that facility, the community members there came out in spades, and their goal was to raise, you know, we struggle at Rotary to raise $70,000 or $80,000 at our auction. Their goal was to raise like $250,000 at the Raise the Paddle Fund and item. That alone got like $330,000, and the overall contribution that night was well over $600,000. There were people who were raising the paddle for $25,000 and $30,000 themselves because they believe that much in addressing food insecurity. It was impressive, and some of those were individuals. So it was heartwarming, to say the least. So think about the food drive. We can all do a little something, and the community will appreciate it. In terms of public comment, not only do I get public comment here, but I get public comment, you know, I see it online. I do read people's comments. And I appreciate those comments. And the city manager already addressed one of them. There was a comment about the light signal at Silicon Boulevard and 83rd over by Starbucks, where people over the weekend, the darn flashing left as you were turning on to 83rd was like taking forever. And so what people were doing, they were jetting through the drive lane of the gas station and cutting through the traffic, and people were just zipping around. It was a little chaotic. So it sounds like that's going to get fixed. Thank you, Ms. Kraus, for the comment on that. Those fixes do help because it shows that people that are making the comments that we do listen, and we're making some changes for them. Another comment that came up today was concerns over public camping and trash, and specifically the comments were referencing the 7-Eleven and McDonald's area around 108th and Pack Highway. Over by the Pierce Transit, there's a bus stop apparently there, and I made a comment to the CEO and he got back to me, so they're taking a look at it. But to the extent that we're having some public camping problems on the right of way, and I know I've received comments about a regular right in front of the library who's like had a makeshift tent, if you will. This is a gentleman who has probably been offered services over and over and over again, but I don't know for sure. But to the extent he's been offered services and he's not availed himself of services, I think the point needs to be made clear that we do have an ordinance that says you can't camp in public rights of way. And I think we need to put our foot down on that. Mr. Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So on that comment, I believe the ordinance also references public properties. And to that extent, we've had some issues over at the Lakewood Library. Is that not a public property that could be?
It is.
To that,
It
I
is.
don't know how that gets into with trespassing, that Pierce County, the library folks would have to give a trespass, but
It would be up to them probably to do that. I'm specifically focused on just the public sidewalk and the right of way that's kind of blocked by because I've seen it in the last few days, early in the morning and the late afternoon. I've seen comments. I received some messages from folks. So again, so we don't have to necessarily involve the library in that conversation, although point well taken. We do control the sidewalks and the public rights of way. They were there this afternoon, according to the deputy mayor. So the issue down on 108th apparently is pretty dire, and then people are talking about drug activity just blatantly in the open, trash all over the place. Not a good look for Lakewood, so it's worth attention. That is all I had. I again appreciated the work tonight by staff and certainly the youth council, and Ms. Bennett does an incredible job with those kids along with Michael, Mr. Vargas. So thank you all for a good evening, and unless there's anything else, yes, Mr. Pearson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a thought escape my mind, but it's back. So we received quite a few comments about the project along Gravelly Lake, along Nyanza there, with the tree removal. And it got me thinking about, we have a tree fund. And I imagine when we do the Green Street Loop that we could use tree funds to do some of that, some plantings along the Green Street Loop. We also have a lot of other areas, as the old trolley car used to, go through Lakewood, and there's many areas where the right of way is quite wide, that those areas could be utilized, and strategically for some plantings.
Of more mature trees.
Yeah, and getting some trees, that fit the space maybe a little bit better than the random stuff that's been growing there, the massive fir trees and stuff like that. So, kind of in response to the comments, but I think that we could have, kind of an overall look at the city where we have these really exceptionally wide right of ways that are just not going to have anything there. Those would be good spaces to help, provide some trees. So, just a thought on, that might be able to solve that problem. But kind of have that thought moving forward with other areas where we have lots of wide right of way from the trolley car or things like that. So
No, very much agreed. I did walk that area with a few neighbors a couple weekends ago and took a look at the area specifically that they were talking about. And I did speak with the city manager about the opportunity to perhaps use the tree fund to plant in the right of way. So it's not a gift of any public funds. It's actually beautifying our own widened right of ways. And I think it's a good idea for us to look at. I know he's taking that under advisement. But when I was in other jurisdictions, I went to Boise and was there for my kids' Parents' Day weekend. And you drive along some of these long strips of roadways, kind of like the Nyanza corridor, or the Gravelly Lake corridor. And the way they have separated residential development from these long, wide right-of-ways is they have these sort of berms that kind of provide some visual and sound attenuation, and they're planted, and they're beautifully planted. So it's something I think that we can look at, because we do have the tree fund, and we're trying to increase our canopy, and this would be a way to perhaps do that. So last comment, thank you for that. Last comment, I did talk to a member of the Arts Commission. They are informally kind of looking at the public art for the roundabout. Is it Nyanza North, whatever, the new one that's being constructed there at Gravelly Lake and Nyanza. And one of the concepts is, Mike, you may remember that swirling oak sort of thing that was done by David Eisenhower some time ago, many, many moons ago, that was already kind of vetted. So they're looking at that again, or something, if they can't get a hold of Mr. Eisenhower, something similar to some sort of oak vignette that would fit in that roundabout. They've gotten dimensions that are allowable from Public Works, and so they're looking at the concept. There is some monies available in the 2025 art budget, and then since it'll slide over to 26, they can capture some of the 26 art money that would be in that budget. There may need, based upon whatever price they get from an artist who's willing to do the work, there may be a need for some sort of fundraising activities for a little bit of it, but I think there's enough members in the community and in that neighborhood out there that they're willing to contribute to that. And so I've checked with Ms. Kraus. They wouldn't be able to contribute directly to the city to get a tax deduction. But they could perhaps, I haven't talked to Partners for Parks yet, but the Partners for Parks perhaps could be a 501c3 with a line item budget for public art in that particular spot. So it may be something that could happen. I just want to let you know that people are working on that. And I think something with an oak leaf character would be appropriate for that right of way and for Lakewood. So more to follow on that. Anything else?